In this video, I'm going to tell you how I make 1 million naira in Nigeria doing programming, from a absolute beginner to a real programmer, and make 1 million. I'm going to divide this video into 3 parts: how I learn the skill, how I get the job, and how I make 1 million naira. And at the end, I'm going to give you a key takeaway to learn from my story. How I learn the skills. What I mean here is how I learned the programming living in Nigeria. We all know that in Nigeria we are having lack of electricity, expensive internet connection, and lack of money. Most of Nigeria suffer from having internet connection. But how did I do that? First of all, I learned HTML and CSS. As a web developer, at that moment I don't have a computer, I don't have a laptop, but I have a smartphone. So I start learning HTML and CSS using one application called Trap. I use that application to learn HTML and CSS, but it's very hard for me to do a web application project, for example to develop a static website. But I get lucky in my environment. I get one guy who has a problem with his computer, so he brought it to me and fixed it. So when he asked me to fix the computer, I fixed the computer, and I did not tell him I fixed the computer. I started using the computer. I create so many projects for web development using HTML and CSS. At that point, I'm having a very serious understanding of HTML and CSS. Then I move forward and I start learning Python programming. Wow, learning Python programming gave me a real opportunity, and he opened my ears, and I see the very big world of programming. I learned Python programming I spent almost 1 year learning Python programming, because I did not use that computer to learn Python programming. I used my smartphone. In that case, I used one application called Pydroid. I used Pydroid to learn Python programming with just my smartphone, and I used that smartphone to create some Python project, for example like Hangman, Tic-Tac-Toe. I use it. But you might ask, how did I learn this? Did I go to someone? No, I learned it around 12 o'clock, because I told you in Nigeria we having expensive connection of internet connection. So but in the night we have constant electricity, and we also have cheapest internet connection. So in the night around 12 o'clock I used to get up. Since I'm using MTN, God bless MTN, then I subscribe for MTN night bundle. Then I download a lot of tutorial for Python programming. Then during the day, I'm going to digest all those tutorial that I learned, and I download, and I learn a lot from them. So this is how I learned Python programming. After I learned Python programming, then locally I get lucky from one of my teacher. He connected to us to one university where we go and we start teaching people programming. In that case, we have a desktop computer. So inside the university we always have constant electricity and internet connection. So I used that opportunity and I start learning Plex, since I wanted to be a back-end developer using Python programming language. So I start learning Plex. So in Plex give me a very real understanding of how back-end and web application work. I understand the concept of session, I understand HTTP, I understand database, I understand template, which is at that moment I learned one template called Ginger template. So after I create some simple web application using Plex, so I realized that if I say I'm going to create a big project with Plex, it's going to take me a lot of time and it's going to be hard. So I start to go and look for help. Then I saw one guy telling that if I really wanted to make a very big web application, I supposed to use Django, because Plex is going to give me over control, but Django is going to help me and abstract all the repetitive tasks. So I took that advice and I started learning Django. Guess what? I learned Django from zero to understanding Django and start using it in just 2 months, and I created big web application with Django in just 2 months. And after I learned Django, then I said I'm going to specialize in using Postgres database, using Django as my backend and PostgreSQL as my database. After that, this is all the skills I gathered. I learned HTML, CSS. I did not learn JavaScript. I learned it a little bit, and later while I leave it and I start learning Python. So I learned Python, and that Python helped me to get some teaching student inside the university, inside one bootcamp in the university, and that learning Python led me to learn Flask and Django. And you might ask, okay, now this is how I get the skills, but how I get the job? So like I mentioned earlier, we start teaching some student inside the university. So one of our students get a job from her husband. Her husband asked her, can you develop a web application for our secondary school? And the girl say, well, I can't do that, but I have a mentor that definitely he can do that. And then she reached out to me and tell me this is what happened. And I say, yes, we can do it. You can bring the project to us. And we ended up getting that project to develop a secondary school platform. So when we get the job, and then we go on and start discussing how are we going to make that a very big, because I never ever make a real web application, but I take a risk. I say no matter what, I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to collect this project and I will do it. I'm just having no clue on how I can do that, but I just say, you know what, let me just do this. So I get the job and I accept the challenge that I'm going to make a web application, a full stack web application, me with my friend. So when we get that job to create a secondary school platform, now we come to the real interesting part, how I make the 1 million naira. So in making that 1 million naira, what we do here is we say, okay, this web application we can create it for you, but you're going to give us 2 million naira. In that case, because I really wanted the job, my heart starts saying, no, don't collect. If you say 2 million, they say the money is going to be too expensive, they will not accept. Say 1 million or 700,000. And in that point I have one of my senior master, and I asked him some advice, and he tell me that you should never ever look for small money. Ask them to give you a big money. If they can't afford it, then even though later you jump into a problem, since you collect a lot of money, you can help yourself and come back to that problem. So I asked them to give me 2 million naira, and they say no, we can only give you 1.5 million. Guess what? I'm very, very curious to collect that project. 1.5 million to me, I did not even hold a 100k for my own. So 1.5, and I quickly accept it. Then after I collect it, I calculate that I can use at least 500k just for hosting, and then I can make the 1 million naira right in my pocket. So this is how I get the job. So this is the 2 main lesson I learned in this journey. Number 1, don't be afraid to take a risk. Always don't be afraid. If something come right in front of you, don't be afraid to take a risk. Try it. If you made a mistake, then later on in the future, correct it. Number 2, always seek for the advice. Don't ask anyone for an advice. Look for a very experienced person and ask for advice, and make sure you use what he told you. In Nigeria, learning programming is a nightmare. We all know that because we lack electricity, we have lack of electricity, we also have a expensive internet connection, and some of us, we don't even have a laptop. We all use our smartphone, and also finding a job is very, very hard. And the third thing I'm going to tell you is show yourself, make connections. It's very hard, but try as much as possible to show yourself. If you really wanted to know how I learn Python program with just my smartphone, subscribe to this channel and look for my next video where I'm going to tell you step by step how I learn Python programming with my smartphone, and also how I ended up making all those projects.